So today is the last full day in Hong Kong, which is a little bit of a bummer because I've really come to love this city. But since it is the last day, there's one place that I have in mind to go to today. Well, that's just where I'm getting on the subway. That's going to be a transfer location. That'll be another transfer location. That's the one. Like every other day of this Hong Kong visit, there was a subway ride. If you're taking the subway to get to Hong Kong Disneyland, there is a special Disneyland Resort line to the park. There's plenty of signage that indicates where to hop on this line, but if you're not sure, there may be a clue on the train itself. When you get to the other end of the line, you've made it to Hong Kong Disneyland. So this is my personal fourth different Disney resort, having been to Disneyland and Disney World in the States, as well as Tokyo Disney. I have to say that one thing I really appreciate about Hong Kong Disneyland and Tokyo Disneyland is how easy it is to get to those parks with the public transportation. One of the first things you'll find on approach to the park is this fountain that pays tribute to the classic Disney characters, like Mickey and Minnie Mouse, Goofy, Pluto, and Donald Duck in a bit of a tricky spot. The fountain is right down the path from the entrance of Hong Kong Disneyland. The park's entrance feels very similar to that of Disneyland in California, and a bit like the Magic Kingdom in Florida. While it may look like there's a lot of people at opening, typically this park doesn't get quite as busy as other Disney resorts, which is nice for being able to experience as many attractions as possible. They just let in the first family of the day, and soon the gates will be open. Walking through the gate gave me a familiar feeling as I went to the tunnel to go underneath the railway station and into Main Street. Since this visit was a bit ahead of the Easter holiday, the park had a number of large Easter eggs on display throughout the park. Some feature classic Disney characters, and some are from Pixar. Some are close by, and some are pretty far. Some are found alone, and some are with friends. Some come with an army, some come with their kin. Whether they sit on props, on top of buildings or signs, there were tons of them for all the guests to find. Keep an eye out for them as we look at more of the park, and share in the comments section below which ones you spot and where. Of course, like many other Disney parks, Main Street leads to the castle at the end. As part of a major renovation and expansion of the park, the current castle will be replaced by a larger one in the future. The park technically doesn't open until 10:30. Being that the case, figured go ahead and get the breakfast of champions, a Mickey waffle. Bon appetit. Now that the park is officially open, it's time to see what Hong Kong Disneyland is all about. There is one major difference to the background behind the castle here from other Disneyland parks. Those mountains are so realistic and they're huge. They must have spent top dollar on it. Or is it a case of that forced perspective? Out of habit, I went to the right side and began with Tomorrowland. Hong Kong's Tomorrowland feels much more like California's. And just like theirs, there is a familiar white cone in the corner. Like other Space Mountains, this was given the Star Wars overlay and is known as Hyperspace Mountain. I don't recall if the California version of the overlay had as much theming in the queue, as here they had an X-Wing on display outside. As you come into the loading area, you'll see the familiar two-across seated trains that you'll find in California and Japan for their versions of Space Mountain. Personally, I tend to favor Florida's version, but I did enjoy this ride through space with the soundtrack, sights and sounds of the iconic Star Wars saga. Hyperspace Mountain was really cool. It's similar to the Japanese version of Space Mountain, but with the Star Wars overlay. One of the big differences of Hong Kong's Tomorrowland is the inclusion of Marvel-themed attractions. But as it turns out, my trip timing was a little bit off for the newest attraction. Just missed being able to do Ant-Man and the Wasp Nano Battle. Guess that means I'm just gonna have to come back to Hong Kong. That's a real shame, isn't it? When you have to come back to a place like Hong Kong. The other attraction here, though, was available, and that was the Ironman Experience. The queue gives the feeling of walking through a World's Fair type of exposition that's presented by Stark Industries, where you get to look into the projects of Tony Stark's company. The ride itself is very similar to Star Tours found at other Disney parks around the world. This version does use 3D glasses.
When you reach Star Tower, you'll be able to safely disembark for your up-close tour of the largest arc reactor in the world.
I got a real kick out of the safety video before coming onto the ride, as it had cameo appearances by the late Stan Lee, the legendary Marvel Comics writer, in a similar fashion to his cameo appearances in Marvel movies. The Iron Man attraction was really cool. It's essentially Star Wars, but with the Iron Man theme instead. Had some great humorous bits in it. A lot of fun to ride. I might even go as far as saying it's my favorite version of that kind of ride. I know there's a lot of people who like the Star Tours attraction, but I'm a little bit more of a Marvel Cinematic Universe fan than I am Star Wars, so that might have influenced a little bit. After Iron Man, I decided to venture into Fantasyland for a bit to see their attractions. There are the staples like Dumbo the Flying Elephant, a carousel, the Mad Hatter's teacups, and of course, it wouldn't be Fantasyland without It's a Small World. Even if the song does get stuck in your head, I feel like it's sacrilegious not to go on It's a Small World. The exterior felt a lot like the California version, but with brighter and more vibrant colors. The queue is largely indoors, similar to the Florida version. And just like all of them, you see the various cultures of the world singing harmoniously that classic song with the instruments changing based upon which part of the world you're floating through. Like the California version, you also catch different Disney characters mixed in with the other animatronics of the attraction. You gotta love the classics. One of the other highlights of Fantasyland is the show Mickey and the Wondrous Book. According to suggestions from the map in the park, if you're going to see the show Mickey and the Wondrous Book, you want to get here early. Based on the crowd that I see ahead of me with 30 minutes before the show begins, it looks like there's some truth to that. So in the grand scheme of things, Mickey and the Wondrous Book was one of those, musical review style shows that had a lot of different Disney properties as a part of the show. The main story being that they find this magical book, Mickey and Goofy. And as they open the book, Olaf falls out from the movie Frozen. So then they're trying to help Olaf get back to his part of the book. The technology is just awesome. It's really cool. Even the subtitles were done in a really neat way because they had books on either side of the stage, and they made it as if it was the imprints of the book, and the projection made it so realistic. It was really cool to see that touch. So definitely a really great show. Must see it if you come to Hong Kong Disneyland. Heading to the other side of the park, in the space in front of the castle, you'll find even more of the beloved characters, including those from some of the more recent films like Moana. It was fitting to see them heading into Adventureland because of a unique show in Hong Kong's version of the land, Moana, A Homecoming Celebration. This show offers a few songs from the film, as well as other Polynesian-inspired numbers, and the use of instruments that you would find on the Pacific Islands. The highlight of this show is an appearance by Moana herself, and her friend Hei the chicken. This version of Adventureland is almost exclusively based on the jungles and tropical islands of the world, and has found some unique ways to incorporate their traditional designs. Disney vending machine theming at its finest. Just ever so slight the hint of the Coke logo on the top, but then taking a look at the detail, we see the coin dispenser that is located where the bowl would be held by the one lizard, and then subtly, this tiki is holding the touch point for an octopus card, and there's even an octopus below it. I love Disney's attention to detail. Out of all the attractions based on Disneyland classics, the Jungle River Cruise was very high on my to-do list. As a former skipper of Disney World's Jungle Cruise, I was looking forward to comparing this version to the one I had worked. The differences begin in the queue, as there are separate lines for which language you wish to hear the skipper speak. The options are Mandarin, Cantonese, and English. A part of me wonders if the American parks have ever considered trying this for their jungle cruises by offering Spanish as well as English. Well, the good news is they have a boat, and it floats. After boarding, it was time for our skipper to take us into the depths of the jungle.
Yeah, it's Thailand tree house. Yeah, how to go to the tree house? Swimming. So don't try to swim because very dangerous. Yeah, many crocodiles are waiting for you. Yeah, if you want to go to the tree house, yeah, you must go on the wharf over there. Yeah, see the wharf, and then you go on the wharf and cross over in the river.
This former skipper wasn't too worried about what we may encounter. Near the beginning, you'll find a number of elephants. Some of them recreate iconic moments of the classic versions of this attraction. From there, you'll go through various ruins. You'll even find the crocodiles. I wonder if one of them's named Ginger. It seems like there's always a problem with gorillas taking over camps. You'd think Disney's figured out how to prevent this from happening by now. There's always hippos. Ask any skipper, past or present, they'll tell you, these things are the worst. Well, we're gonna have to look out for them now. Back, 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 back. Stay away from the boat! Damn hippos. Well, let's continue, shall we? It never seems like a complete jungle excursion without the chance to be hunted by the locals.
They look very tasty. Oh, be careful!
But what really sets this version apart from the others is its finale.
Because we are not allowed to keep soft on here. Yeah, over here is the door. Now let's go into the door.
As your journey ends, you're given a farewell by a new friend, and the skipper's back on the dock. So in a way, it's kind of like a homecoming to get onto the Jungle River Cruise here at Hong Kong Disneyland, because I used to work on the Jungle Cruise at Disney World in Florida for a couple of years. So it's really neat to get a chance to see the Hong Kong version of the attraction that I spent quite a bit of time on. One of the things that I found really fascinating was the way that this seems to be the replacement of the Rivers of America at the American Disney parks, because there is a part of the ride that does pause, waiting for the rafts to get across to the island, whereas usually that's more of a big steamboat at the American parks. Still really neat to get on to the Jungle Cruise here, or the Jungle River Cruise here, and see how it's different than the American version. After surviving the jungle, it was time for a snack. Crispy chicken sausage. Yeah, we'll try it out. This is where the park really shows its unique side. Now this is an area I'm excited to check out. Grizzly Gulch, Mystic Point. Really looking forward to seeing what these attractions are like. Grizzly Gulch is the Hong Kong equivalent of Frontierland at other Disney parks. While inspired by Frontierland, it has a completely different feel, including a large number of geysers right alongside the pathways. And the style of the buildings are different than those found in the other Frontierlands. The staple attraction of Grizzly Gulch is the big Grizzly Mountain Runaway mine cars. Yeah, that's a mouthful. This roller coaster was designed with the help of Vekoma and serves as the park's equivalent to Big Thunder Mountain, but with a few extra tricks. Going through the ride's queue does feel very similar to that of Big Thunder, as you walk through a mining operation and see the tools and the mine shaft entrances as you make your way over to the ride's platform. At the end of the queue, it's time to hop aboard. Remember those extra tricks? Well, here's one of them. This is seriously just a stinking cool coaster. Imagine, if you will, something that combines elements of Big Thunder Mountain with Expedition Everest and just a little touch of Rock and Roller Coaster, and that gives you this thing. Big Grizzly Mountain Runaway Mine Cars. This ride is just a ton of fun. As far as Disney coasters go, I would put this pretty high on my list, maybe even the top one, just because it's such a great combination of others, and then on top of that, it has a little bit of a unique theme to it, even though it does have hints of Big Thunder Mountain to it, so a lot of fun. Absolutely got to ride it when you come to Hong Kong Disneyland. From Grizzly Gulch, it's on to Mystic Point, which is the location of the attraction Mystic Manor. Outside of Mystic Manor is the Garden of Wonders, an area that offers a different look, if you will. The Garden of Wonders adds a really unique touch to Mystic Point, giving you the ability to see these pieces of artwork from different angles and seeing separate parts, but then when you look at it through the viewing portal, it makes you look at an angle that makes it look like one complete piece. Disney has always found great ways to engage visitors with areas of the park, even if it isn't part of a ride or a show. But the main attraction here is Mystic Manor. This serves as Hong Kong Disneyland's equivalent to the Haunted Mansion, but does not depict departed spirits as it goes against Chinese culture. To be respectful of local customs, they created a new attraction with its own unique story, and the musical score of this attraction is provided by Danny Elfman. The story is that you are entering the home of Lord Henry Mystic, who can be seen here with Albert, his little furry companion. Mystic is a member of the Society of Explorers and Adventurers. He collects artifacts that he keeps in his home, Mystic Manor. As you walk through the queue, you can learn more about the Society and its other members, as well as about Mystic's travels. Recently, he and Albert found a music box that is believed to be able to bring inanimate objects to life. It's in the pre-show room that we meet Lord Mystic and Albert for the first time.
Hello, can you hear me out there from back in the projection room? Welcome to Mystic Manor. Home to a world-class collection of art, antiquities, and my personal residence. I am Lord Henry Mystic. The young fellow at my side is Albert, my traveling companion, confidant, and you rather mischievous partner. Yes, Albert, that's you. Now run along.
From the pre-show, you're led to the loading area where you'll board one of Lord Mystic's magnetic carriages for a tour of his home. These carriages are the trackless vehicles similar to those used on some of Disney's latest attractions worldwide. Once you board, you begin the tour with the acquisitions and cataloging room. What happens next is a true spectacle of an attraction.
Hello there. I was just looking for... Oh, there's the music box I told you about. I must find my little friend.
Upon touching the music box, Albert has allowed it to work its magic, bringing various objects to life. There's a tribute to a classic Disney attraction with busts that can be seen in the Haunted Mansion. Throughout the adventure, Albert finds himself in all sorts of precarious situations. The rest of the artifacts continue to cause chaos until Albert finally brings an end to it.
Albert, there you are. You didn't touch that music box, did you? You never know. The legend just might be true.
That thing is amazing. That was seriously one of the best attractions I've ever experienced at a Disney park. The level of the technology, the story, everything about it was just fantastic. I can't imagine thinking any other attraction was better than this one that I've been on at pretty much any park, really. I mean, it's just the level of detail and the different elements they had to it, the ability to kind of change the layout because of the trackless system. It's just such a cool ride. Oh man, I loved it a lot. You can't come to Hong Kong Disneyland and skip out on this. If it's down for refurbishment, reschedule your entire trip. Okay, maybe don't do that, but definitely take a ride on Mystic Manor. That thing is fantastic.
The last section of the park I had yet to see was Toy Story Land. Much like at Hollywood Studios in Florida, it's playtime in Andy's backyard. They have a variety of rides here, including a mini parachute drop themed after the Green Army Men. And Slinky Dog is more like an old Caterpillar ride rather than a launched coaster that you'll find in Florida. There is a roller coaster here though, RC Racer. This Intamin coaster goes forward, then backward. Forward, backward, and repeats a couple of times until it stops. And that's it.
RC Racer's okay. I mean, it's basically a glorified surf rider that doesn't have any spinning to it, so it's not the most thrilling thing in the world, but
At this point, there was a lot of rewriting, thanks in large part to the minimal lines at this time. Especially the likes of Mystic Manor and Big Grizzly Mountain, as they were certainly my favorites of the day. And I got a new friend too. As the time passed, the nighttime sky took over and would help the park transition into an atmosphere that I love. Near the end of the night, I had one mandatory stop.
So I stopped inside the Duffy Store here at Hong Kong Disneyland. It's not because I'm a huge fan, but my friend Chelsea, who is the writer for the website 20-something in Orlando, is a huge Duffy fan. Anytime I've gone to an Asian Disney park, she has specifically requested that I pick up stuff for her with Duffy. And so I've got a basket with some Duffy stuff in it to send her.
Along with acquiring Chelsea's Duffy merchandise, there were additional nighttime photo stops in Main Street and Tomorrowland.
The night sky might have fallen here at Hong Kong Disneyland, but if there's one thing this place knows how to do, it's to really light up the night, especially when it comes to nighttime parades.
Like most Disney parades, there were a number of people who were lined up early to get a spot.
Good-sized crowd, but not nearly as chaotic as Dia de los Muertos over in Mexico City.
When the lights go out, it's time to sit back and enjoy Hong Kong Disneyland's nighttime parade, Paint the Night.
And that's a wrap on the first visit to Disneyland in Hong Kong. You know, I gotta tell you, I really enjoy this park. It's an absolutely gorgeous place. I love the setting that it has with the mountains of Lantou Island around it. Makes it a little bit more unique compared to the other Disney resorts. You know, this is the first one besides the first time I went to Disneyland in California that I visited a Disney resort that only had one park. And some people would say that probably means there wouldn't be that much to do. But I would still say that with this park, even though there aren't as many attractions in total compared to the likes of Tokyo Disney or Disney World in Florida or Disneyland in California, the quality of what they have here really helps to make up for it. You know, they have some great unique attractions between Mystic Manor as well as the big Grizzly Mountain Runaway mine cars. At this point though, it's time to head back to the hotel, call it a night, as we'll say bye to Hong Kong. And so for that, I say thank you for checking out Hong Kong with me. Hope you'll come back for more on Coasting with Culture.
Thank you for watching this video from Coasting with Culture. If you haven't already done so, please consider clicking that subscribe button down below if you'd like to see future videos. You can also find Coasting with Culture on Twitter and Facebook as well. And of course, for more travel experiences, visit coastingwithculture.com. Until next time, take care and safe travels.